I was 18, old enough, people said, to be a woman, yet still a girl in ways that mattered. I was afraid of the dark. Loud voices made me flinch. I still slept with a thin blanket pulled to my chin, as if fabric could protect me from the world. And suddenly, I was a bride. Not because I loved someone, not because I dreamed of a future, but because I was told it was time. After my mother died, my father married again. At first, my stepmother wore kindness like a borrowed shawl, something she put on in public and slipped off the moment no one was watching. When my father passed away 2 years later, that shawl disappeared completely. I was 16 then. From that day onward, I became an obligation she had not asked for, a reminder of a life she wanted to forget. I cleaned the floors until my fingers cracked. I cooked meals I wasn't allowed to eat properly. I washed clothes until my back ached, and learned how to make myself small so I wouldn't be noticed. I learned to swallow words before they reached my tongue. Silence became my second skin. When I turned 18, she told me I was getting married. "You should be grateful," she said, adjusting her bangles as if this was a favor. "He's wealthy. You'll never be hungry again." Hungry, as if hunger was the worst thing that could happen to a girl like me. I didn't know his name until 2 days before the wedding. I didn't see his face until the night before. He stood across the room, tall and still, his expression unreadable. He didn't smile, he didn't ask me anything. He simply nodded once as if confirming a purchase. His name was Zahn. He was 29, a successful businessman, respected and feared in equal measure. My stepmother told me he wanted someone simple, someone obedient, someone who wouldn't question him. That was why she chose me. The wedding passed in a blur of noise, perfume, and unfamiliar faces. My hands were painted with henna that I didn't admire. My dress was heavy, deep red, pressing against my skin like a reminder that I no longer belonged to myself. I smiled when told. I bowed my head when expected. Inside, I felt hollow. That night, I was dizzy with exhaustion when he entered the room. He locked the door behind him. The sound echoed in my chest. He looked at me with eyes that held no warmth, no cruelty either, just distance. "Take off your clothes," he said. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't shout. That somehow made it worse. I froze. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. I clutched the fabric of my dress, every muscle locked in place. I wanted to cry, but the tears refused to come, trapped somewhere deep inside. He sighed, sharp and impatient, then turned away. "I'll sleep on the sofa, but tomorrow you should behave like a wife." He switched off the light. I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, my fingers digging into my wedding clothes. I felt cold, emptied out, as if something precious had been taken from me without permission, my childhood, my freedom, my voice. The days that followed were quiet in a way that hurt. He didn't touch me, not the first night, not the second, not for an entire week. He didn't speak to me either. He came home late, ate in silence, and slept on the sofa. Sometimes I caught him looking at me, his eyes tired, thoughtful, but never soft. I cooked, I cleaned, I washed his clothes. I did everything a wife was supposed to do, yet I didn't feel like a wife. I felt like a prisoner who had learned to smile. One evening, while cleaning the kitchen, my hands slipped. A glass shattered against the floor, the sound sharp and sudden. A shard cut my finger. Blood welled up instantly. I gasped and instinctively tried to hide it. Pain was something I had learned to keep quiet. But he walked in just then. He saw the blood. "What happened?" he asked. It was the first time he had spoken to me like a person. I broke a glass," I whispered. "I'm sorry." He looked at my shaking hands, then at my face. He noticed the tears I was fighting. "You're hurt," I nodded. Without another word, he took my hand and wrapped a cloth around my finger, his touch careful, almost hesitant. I stared at him, confused by the gentleness. "Be careful," he said softly. "You can sit. I'll clean this." Something cracked inside me then, not because of the kindness itself, but because it was the first time in years that someone had treated me like I mattered. The next morning, I found a first aid box on the table. Beside it was a small packet of chocolate and a folded note. "For the girl who bleeds in silence." There was no name, but I knew. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. The rain came one evening, without warning, heavy and relentless. The lights went out, leaving the house wrapped in darkness. I lit a candle and made tea, the steam curling upward like a quiet prayer. When he came home, he was soaked and exhausted, studied me for a long moment, as if weighing something invisible. Then he spoke, his voice low. "My mother was like you, quiet, always afraid." I looked at him, surprised. "My father used to beat her. I used to hide under the table and listen to her cry." He paused. "She died when I was 15. The room felt smaller, heavier. "My uncle raised me after that. He taught me to be tough, to never let emotions in. I thought kindness was weakness." My eyes filled with tears. "You're not unkind," I whispered. He looked away. "I thought marrying a quiet girl would make life easier, but I was wrong. You don't deserve to be scared." After that, things changed, slowly, gently. He began eating breakfast with me. He asked how my day had been. When I mentioned that I loved reading but never had time, he started bringing me books. He never touched me without asking. He knocked before entering the room. He still slept on the sofa. One night, he asked, "Can I sit here?" I nodded. He sat at the edge of the bed, his hands folded tightly. "Are you still scared of me?" "Not as much," I said. He smiled, small and uncertain. "That's a start." 2 months into our marriage, I finally told him everything. About my stepmother, about begging not to be married, about crying through my wedding night, about losing my voice. He listened. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he said, "You didn't lose your voice. It was stolen. I'll help you find it again." One cold night, I fell ill. Fever burned through me, and my chest ached with every breath. He stayed beside me, awake, bringing water, whispering comfort. At some point, I woke up crying, years of silence breaking loose. He held me, not to control me, not to demand anything, just to hold me. 3 months after our marriage, he came into the room and said, "Can I sit with you? I love you, but I will never touch you unless you love me too." I saw him then, not a cold man, not a cruel one, but a broken soul learning how to heal. I reached for his hand. "I'm ready," I said, not because I was forced, because I chose to be. Now I'm 21. We live in a small house with a garden. I write books, stories about girls like me. He still makes me tea every night, and sometimes I cry, not from fear, but from healing, from love.